startup, I think the reason why lifecycle and onboarding emails are not seen as priority is the very reason why onboarding in general is not seen as priority and customer lifecycle is not seen as priority is a lot of companies are over-indexed on focusing on let's just acquire as many sales and leads as possible.
I think maybe right now we've been playing a little bit of checkers for too long and not enough chess and looking at things more holistically.
And I guarantee you, for any campaign, I could pick a ton of things that would do nothing. It would do absolutely nothing. So
how do you measure customer retention? How do you measure brand awareness? Like there's not like one specific metric or a group of metrics that you can define that with.
A lot of times what we do in lifecycle and email, the most exciting moments are ones that drive revenue. And it's one of the areas where we can have direct response work really effectively. And that's where we get the most notoriety and where it has like the most tangible awareness, because that's money you can reinvest in acquisition and elsewhere.
I would love to see more organizations build newsletters into their overall strategy, because it is such a powerful relationship building tool.
Retention is certainly part of creating, better customers. But it's also, about like improving, brand engagement and expanding accounts and growing sales and increasing product and service usage. So all of those elements seem to kind of win out over this broader concept of retention. But if you're doing those other things, you're also improving retention.
Used to be where like it's easy to raise money and like let's just throw more ads. Let's plug retention and onboarding problems by just putting more people or users at the top of the funnel, and now it's like, oh my goodness, that's no longer the case.
We all know it's critically important, but how you actually solve for retention at scale is very tricky. And then I would say the people that succeed at this, it's because of all the extra TLC. It's like you can't phone it in. For me, what resonates the most is when I can tell that there was someone on the other side that truly crafted this with a lot of TLC and really cared and contextualized a moment that made sense to me based on where I'm at with my relationship to that brand.
You can't compete on feature anymore. I think features will be copied easily, but what's really hard to copy is how you make a person feel.
Too often, I feel like we get trapped in our own bubbles. And you look at what your competitors are doing, you look at what people in your space are doing, and you think, this is the whole world. This is all that's possible.
Segmentation is key, but segmentation can also get really overwhelming. There is no right answer. It's whatever works best for the message you're trying to deliver.
Like, where do you start with that? So I think just thinking about it and like what these customers are, what do they look for? What do they want out of the brand or the product or the service that you're offering, and kind of taking in chunks like that feels like a very manageable thing that lifecycle and customer marketers can do versus trying to figure out this whole mess of lifecycle marketing that is incredibly complicated.
Yeah, you don't boil the ocean. You look for the little pools and try to address them, because the needs are unique. Yeah. And so your nurturing has to be unique as well.
I do feel like email personalization is really critical at this point in just marketing in general.
Personalization is good, but not all personalization is effective. So the magic of personalization is deducing what are the critical elements that really make a difference.
There's so many emails. There's like inbox fatigue and overwhelm. And I feel like the key way to stand out in the inbox, beyond segmenting your messages to make sure it really resonates with the person that's opening the email, is taking it a step further and personalizing those emails.
And research has shown that when emails are personalized with just the first name and it's not continued into the body of the email, that's actually as likely to hurt email performance as it is to help it. People have seen this trick. Most consumers see that as a big disconnect when they encounter it on one level and then dig down deeper, and it seems like it's just content for everybody. They don't like that. They feel tricked.
marketers and email marketers are only just getting to the point where they can calculate the exact ROI of email or the exact conversion rate of like emails that are going out. So the thought of like going beyond that and seeing the impact an email program has on the customer's life cycle, like how long they're with us, how long they're retaining with us, how much they're using the product. It requires plugging into so many different teams and tools and people. And I think that's my sentiment on why that could be challenging for marketers right now.
Lifecycle marketing is not the only team that needs data's help. And sometimes it's not even the priority. If there are, revenue operations needs or reporting needs, of course, like reporting on how the business is performing is going to come above everything else. So I do feel like it's really important to follow their process. And I feel like that's kind of where the relationship building comes into play, is if you respect the data and operations process and follow it, it makes it easier to rinse and repeat that work when you have future needs that come into play.
I don't think I've worked anywhere where there hasn't been some sort of challenge with data. So the one thing I will say is like everyone's in the same boat. So it's a challenge for everyone, but we will get through it.
Now more than ever, especially with the focus on retention and profitability and sustainability for businesses. I think this people are realize, oh shoot, like we can't just run the same ad playbook and outbound playbook. We need to think about other more creative approaches to not just acquire customers, but also to make sure that they stick around for a longer time.
Imagine if you turned up all of your brand awareness initiatives. Imagine if you turned up all your brand focused emails and paid ads, like instantly you would see an impact, not just across the top of the funnel, across your usage and customer retention too. So, but like people will never want to turn things off completely. Like, that's like, oh, we don't know how to measure it, but we don't want to turn it off because we know it's kind of working too. Then you really get the answer of like how important it actually is.
Take bigger swings. I think we've gotten at times addicted to these like one variable at a time A/B test. And next thing you know, a year and a half has gone by and you're drowning in small wins and ties. And take bigger swings. Don't be afraid to stand up a new program and then kill it within a couple months if it's not working. Like just, be thoughtful with how you do it.
Asking the users what they want and need and how they'd like to be engaged with, and then delivering that to them. So the example that we're incorporating in our onboarding nurtures is we're asking them, where do you feel you're at in your onboarding experience, and giving them a series of options and then tailoring the onboarding resources we're providing based on how they answered.
I always encourage teams to go sign up for newsletters that are totally outside your world. Sometimes it's stuff that you like, often it's stuff that you don't, but you can learn things from the stuff that you hate.
Audit your existing life cycles, journeys, and programs. These are not set it and forget it programs, but so often they are treated as such, and they get out of date and they get broken. So that's my number one piece of advice: audit your existing programs.